About there in age, pretty much.
Oh yeah?
You know how old I am?
You're 90,
3.
93. Wow. So today is November 6th, 2002.
Right.
And we're doing this for the National Comedy Hall of Fame, the American Comedy Hall of Fame, actually.
That's nice.
And this is Mousie Garner. Is it Mousey or Mousey?
Mousie.
Right,
Mousey.
so it's Mousey. All right. And we'll figure out how you got that name and
In fact, I'm
everything.
going to grow up to be a rat someday.
Okay, let's start from the beginning, Mousey. Where were you born?
I was born in Washington, D.C., in Georgetown,
Oh, really?
in 1909.
And what was your family made up of?
My family, my father and mother, my father was born in Rockville, Maryland, and my mother was born in Baltimore. And I was born in Georgetown
Uh,
in 1909, July 31st. And
did you have brothers and sisters?
I got 3 brothers. One of them's gone, the youngest one, Raymond. I love them all, still do. And the one next to me was still is, a very fine musician. He's 91, and he played with a lot of the big bands in the country, like Jimmy Dorsey, Charlie Spivak, all those bands. He was that good to play with them. He played 7 or 8 instruments, and that's the one that is next to me. Then there's one, Harold, they call him Happy, is one, he's next to him. And the baby, Raymond, passed away about 4 years ago.
What did your dad do for a
My
living?
dad was a film salesman. He worked for Universal, First National. In the old days, he used to go on the road maybe about 3 days a week to sell the product, then come back for 4 days and go out again.
When you say film, you mean movies or raw
Movies,
film?
Movies, like when he was Universal, he had big sellers like Lon Chaney, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and The Phantom of the Opera. And they had Reginald Denny. This is all silent pictures,
Right.
in the leather pushes, things like that. And then he worked with those people, and then he became a manager of the Universal in Washington, and they sent him to Omaha, Nebraska, as the manager to help sell the sales, and he took the family. We all went with him.
You went to Omaha.
Took the
How
whole family.
old were you when you went there?
Huh?
How old were you when you went there?
Oh my God, 7 or 8 years old.
Uh-huh. So your dad was actually kind of in show business.
Well, he's a sales part.
Technically, yeah. So when did you start performing?
When I was about a lot of theaters around Washington that were doing amateur shows, and my brother Frank, myself, and my first cousin Jack Wolf, we did an act of the 3 of us. We sang harmony together around. I was about 5 or 6, and my kid brother, who was a year and a half younger than me, then Jack was my age, and we were that big, singing as a trio, and we did very well to come out first prizes a lot of times. And you know who was on the bill with us at one time, many times? You ever have a girl named Kate Smith?
Sure.
She was on the show. She won a few first prizes, and we won the first prizes, and that got me actually liking show business.
What kind of songs did you sing?
Huh?
What kind of songs did you sing?
Margie, Oh by Jingo, and I did at my age, I did an impersonation of Al Jolson singing Mammy,
Uh-huh.
and went together, and before you know it, we were doing it, and then a few years later, my father was sent down to Atlanta, Georgia, for the same company to work there, and he took the family with him down Atlanta, Georgia. So in 1917, I don't know, I guess I was 8 or 9 years old then, and my brother and my father took us out to Camp Gordon when the First World War was on, and they were doing camp shows out there for the boys who were about to go overseas to fight against the Germany at the time. And I don't know, I know Sergeant York was down at the time. I don't know if I entertained him or not, but he was there in the camp when I went out there with my brother. My father emceed the show for us, took us out there. He had his little hand in show business, but not professionally, just doing it.
Did he sing and stuff too? Did he sing too?
He sang pretty good, but he was a good MC. And when I worked with my brothers, he put the act on. He helped put the act. It's very good.
So how did you get into doing from singing into doing comedy?
let's see, in those days, when I was a musician in the union, in the musicians union in Washington, they had the theaters in those days, like the Paramount in New York, Capitol Theater in New York, and all those theaters were what were called presentation houses. There was such thing as vaudeville and presentation houses. So in the presentation houses in Washington, D.C., at the Earl Theater, there was a guy by the name of Jack Pepper, who was the MC of the theater, and myself and Jack Wolf, my first cousin, were in the stage band where Jack Pepper was leading the band, and he had a very funny sense of humor. He just led the band and sang great, a wonderful singer, and he had funny lines like leads the band. He says, "Anybody that follows my stick is fired." Because but they had a great band, and we were on the band there. And the time the talkies first came in, it took the country by storm, right? With talkies. So Jack Pepper had to leave the Earl Theater because they put talkies in there, and they didn't need the stage presentation houses. So he was sent to Baltimore at the Stanley Theater, which is a subsidiary of the Warner chain theaters. And he went over there, and he said, "I'd like to take you and your partner, cousin, to work with me as just for a while, and then you could go back to Washington, in the union, play your music and everything." So, but we went over there with Jack Pepper, and the two of us were such a big hit, we stayed with Jack. Went on the road, and Jack Pepper called it Jack Pepper with mustard and ketchup. My partner and I, what I mean? And finally, later
So what
on,
did you do? Just kind of have a repartee between the three of you?
we did a
Did you heckle
takeoff.
them?
We did a takeoff on the Rhythm Boys, and the Rhythm Boys is 3 rhythm boys that were with Paul Whiteman in those days, with Bing Crosby, Al Winkler, and Harry Barish, with the 3 of them, and we did a burlesque on them, Mississippi Mud. It was funny as hell. Did a lot of stuff.
Could you tell me some of the were there jokes and stuff in it?
Well, he says, here's some of the jokes. Would come up, Jack Pepper would pull the Wolf would pull the piano out,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm behind it, a little tom thumb. I'm behind it, and I get up a funny way, and we had funny suits on at the time, you know.
Is this when you had your hair kind of
I had my
out
hair
crazy?
way up. Oh God! And who are you guys? And Jack Wolf gave him a letter to read. This will introduce mustard and ketchup. So and so and so and so. You guys are great singers. You worked with a lot of big theaters. We worked opera. Who wrote this? We did. And what do you guys do? Oh, we sing. What kind of songs you sing? Hot. And I said, and dirty songs, you know. And then we did that. How dirty can you sing? I said, Mississippi Mud. So we did Mississippi Mud, and it was a very big hit. And then Jack had a very, very high voice. Real, boy, did he sing high. And we closed the show with St. Louis Blues. And he stopped them 9 times out of 10, he stopped the show cold. He had to come back out, you know, do something extra. Then at the time, God, am I going ahead of myself or what? So anyway, it went through, and we worked with Jack for about 3 years.
How much money did you make then?
Well, he got us under contract up at the William Morris office. Abe Glassvogel was the guy who made the contract up. He was the president of the company at the time, and I made, for the first year and a half, $100 a week. It's pretty good money in those days.
Yeah,
1928.
that's good money.
Then we got it up to 125
Mm-hmm.
with Jack. Then we went with him for about 3 years. 1931, Jack and I, Ted Healy was.
This is when you met Ted Healy. After.
I met him, not to work with him at the time. I met him in Pittsburgh when he was in the Broadway show called Night in Venice at the Alvin Theater in Pittsburgh, and Jack Wolf and I were playing with Jack Pepper at the Stanley Theater. That's where we met Ted. I didn't meet the boys yet. It was Shemp, Moe, and Larry. And then finally, at the time in New York, we were playing with Jack. Jack and I left Pepper, and maybe a couple of days later, it got around. There's an agent by the name of Marty Sampter. Says, by the way, I'm going to take you over to the Morosco Theater, where there's a rehearsal and tryouts, because Moe, Shemp, and Larry left Ted on kind of money matters or something like that. They left. So he needed 3 new guys. So I went in with Jack Wolf down at the Morosco Theater. But before that, we met Dick Hakins, who was with Ted Healy. He took Moe's place, I think, one of the boys' place, in the Schubert show in 1925, when Ted Healy was starring in it, and Dick Hakins was his stooge, plus somebody else with him, because I think it was Shemp, just Shemp and Dick, somebody else. I think maybe Ted Healy's wife's brother. Then, but we met Dick Hakins at some theater working. He was with an act. We met him and he told us all about Ted Healy. And I never knew him too well. And I never saw that type of comedy where you poke the eyes out, hit each other in the head, knock him on the floor, kick him.
What'd you think about it when you saw it?
Well, I laughed at it. Different. I never saw anything like that, you know. So we went down to the Morosco Theater, and Ted Healy's looking at, it must have been 60 or 70 guys trying out for the Stooges with Ted Healy. Of course, Ted was a big name in those days. You know, he played the Palace, New York, in those days with Shemp and Larry, you know what he got in those days? 6,000 a week. In 1929, 28.
Goodness.
Huh?
That's a huge amount of money.
My God. That would be plenty today. Anyway, so I went for an audition, and he called on me to come up there, you know. I looked, you know, with the hair and everything, I looked like one of the guys. So I went to shake hands with him. He gives me a bang in the head. I never saw this before in my life. Really a good one, too. So I got mad. I really did. I got mad. I jumped on him, bit his ear, grabbed him, hit him back. He says, "Get in the corner, you're hired." And he wanted to get the reaction. That's what it was. So then he calls Jack Wolf for the audition. Wolf went up there and says, "What you did to him goes for me too." and that come in, and we then Hakins, Ted Healy nodded at Hakins like, "Okay," you know what I mean. So Dick teamed up with the two of us, and we were the three new Stooges.
Did you go by your name, Mousey?
Mousey,
He
yeah.
still referred you to as Mouse. So where did you go with him then?
Jack Pepper gave me the name of Mousey.
Oh, I see. How did he come up with Mousey?
I used to eat very fast.
Oh, I see.
You know, it says, "You eat like a mouse, don't you?" I said, "Well, I can't help. I've been eating like that all my life." He says, "You eat like a mouse." They started calling me Mousey from then on.
I see. What's your real name?
Paul.
Paul.
Paul Albert Garner.
Paul
They
Albert
called me
Garner.
Mousie Garner.
I see.
And it was funny.
So now you're on the road with Ted Healy.
The show was produced by Green and Gensler, who produced the show with Joe Cook, big star called Fine and Dandy. It was a tremendous success in New York. Joe Cook was starring, and so they got this Ted Healy show called Gangs All Here, with Ted Healy starring, Ruby Keeler, Hal Leroy, Sean Lee. Very good. And the show the songs were gorgeous, but the script wasn't good. And the show didn't last no more than 8 to 10 weeks. They go,
Was it a variety show with
No, it was
singing and dancing
this was a
and
Broadway,
comedy?
Broadway show called Gangs All Here, you know, like a Broadway show. You know, you go in at 8:30, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Come out the same night at 11. And it was a gorgeous and beautiful show, but there wasn't a good script. Only lasted about 10 weeks. And then we, after that, we worked some theaters with them. We worked like the Paramount, the Lower State, New York. And before you know it, Ted signed a contract to go on a show called Crazy Quilt. It was originally that called Sweet and Low with Fanny Bryce, Georgia Jessel, and James Barton. So it ran about a year and a half on Broadway, a very successful hit. So Billy Rose was the owner of the show. Billy Rose was married to Fanny Bryce. So he changed the title and got 2 new stars. He changed it to Crazy Quilt, and he got Ted Healy and Phil Baker instead of Jessel and Barton. So it went with Fanny Bryce, Phil Baker, Ted Healy, called Crazy Quilt, and rehearsed and everything. And opening night, all the press came in. You know, we stayed there for 2 years.
Wow.
How about that? We stayed for 2 years on Broadway, big, tremendous success. And then finally, it got so that we were rehearsing, we were pretty good with Ted, but we broke away, I forgot the year, and the 3 boys, Moe, Shemp, and Larry, came back with Ted.
I I see. So you,
before Curly. Curly came in later. What was that?
so you stopped working in that show with Ted and
No, we
the
still,
guys came in.
we worked, it closed.
Uh-huh. And you guys went off on your own?
No, after the show closed, we went on the road with the Crazy Quilt for about a year, over a year. Chicago, Philadelphia, uh, Cleveland, all the big
How
towns,
long would you stay in those towns?
good hotels.
How long would you stay in those towns?
Well, went to Chicago, stayed 18 weeks.
Oh,
We played the Hatter Theater in Cleveland, big hit there. And all the other big main cities stay a week. Went to Los Angeles at the Biltmore Theater, we stayed 6 weeks there with the Crazy Quilt show. And they played San Francisco at the Geary Theater. Oh, it was wonderful. And I'm trying to think of that RKO Theater in San Francisco.
well, they were all over.
Oh, it was a
Lots
good
of theirs, yeah.
Golden Gate.
Oh, yes.
Played the Golden Gate Theater on a bill, and every place we went with Jack Pepper, the act was a hit because Jack had such a great voice, and he was a good-looking guy. And those days, the flappers, the broads, went for him big. You used to see what they did in the stage door to come to see him. I mean, you do today, television, radio, you become a big hit, they all wait for you, right? But he did it the hard way, did it in the theater. And all those girls came back, and I was one thing. I got a few of his leftovers, Jackson. It was fun, a lot of fun.
So, okay, now you're on the road and you went to all these theaters all over the country. What happened then? You did that for how long?
Then we came back to Broadway, New York, and three of us broke away from Ted, and we did an act called Garner and Hakins, the Gentlemaniacs. But he used the word Stooges because Ted Healy was using those three guys, Moe, Shemp, and Larry, and Curly with him. But we were called the Stooges when we were with Ted Healy. It was called Ted Healy and the Three Stooges. And when Moe, Shemp, and Larry went on, did their own act, worked in Vaudeville and everything, they called them just Shemp, Moe, and Larry. No Stooges. Because they didn't use the name at the time.
Right, he had that trademark, so to speak.
Ted had the trademark.
Right.
Went for Ted. But Ted was a nice man.
Was he nice? I was going to ask you about him.
Huh?
Was he a pretty nice guy?
I liked him very much.
Yeah?
He only had one bad feature, that was the drinking department. Very dangerous.
Uh-huh.
He got very crazy when he got drunk. But he one time he stayed on a wagon for 9 months. See, I rejoined Ted when my partner Wolf got so sick that he had to quit the business. He got very ill. So he went back and we kind of broke up the act. And I didn't know what happened to Hakins, and Hakins finally went to California. And then Ted had the three boys, under MGM, and they finally left Ted and went with Columbia, with Curly, Moe, and Larry. Then came back, and they did well with them, but they went with Columbia. So Ted wanted three new guys again, so he got Jack Wolf, myself, and a guy out there by the name of Sammy Wolf, and he took the name, his name was Sammy Glasser, but he took the name of Wolf because he wanted to be Garner, Wolf, and Hakins again. Ted Healy's new Stooges, new Super Stooges, they call us.
Super Stooges, huh?
Yeah, we did. And we did some radio shows with Ted in the old days. I'm getting to what I remember.
Okay.
Did some radio shows. We did a show at the El Capitan Theater in Hollywood called MGM's Maxwell House Radio Show. And MGM had it because they had all those big stars to work in the shows. So we did a radio show with Ted. It was very funny. And we only worked 2 weeks. That's when he got in trouble. He got killed, you know, passed away.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah,
Some
he
sort of
got
a
killed.
bar fight, huh?
Huh?
Some sort of a fight in a bar.
They gave him Mickey Finn. There was a lot of, he got mixed up. And the bad thing about it, when he went out, he had nobody with him to protect him, to help him out. And when he got drunk, he always wants to fight.
Uh-huh.
And they fought there. And he was, to me, he was one of my favorite comedians of all time. Ted Healy was one of the greatest. Ad lib. I mean, he could do it alone, by himself. Big star. And everybody, when I worked in Crazy Quilt, Fatty Bryce liked him, Phil Baker liked him, everybody liked him. But he did a lot of wrong things when he got drunk. You couldn't depend on him.
Do you always show up for the show?
He made it. He got there somehow.
I see. So then he died.
He got killed at the age of 41 when he got in trouble at the Brown Derby on Vine, the old days. And he got in a fight with a Marine. The Marine kicked the hell out of him. Softened him up, really. Because he did it himself. Got drunk, picked on anybody. Then he went out to the Crocodile in those days on the strip. And he got in a fight with some Pat DeSico, who was Stonewall Todd's husband. He got in a fight with him, and they beat the hell out of him. They really beat him up. They really did. So he went home, and he died 3 days later. Funniest part, his son, his marriage to the second Betty, gave a son to Ted Healy Jr., and the kid was only 3 days old when Ted died. And the kid today, he lives in Atlanta, Georgia. Ted Healy Jr. was a very close friend of mine. Very close. And I liked him very much. I still do.
He didn't go into show business, did he?
No.
No. So you were out a boss and a partner.
Huh?
You were out a boss and a partner at that point, right? So what happened then?
Well,
You were working at the El Capitan.
oh, when we did, that was before he died.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's when they had the Maxwell House MGM show. They had guys like Jimmy Stewart, Clark Gable, what's her name? Gene Harlow.
What would they do when they come on this show?
Do a sketch.
A little sketch with you guys?
No, we worked with Ted. And, well, remember some of the material. Ted Healy comes out with the three of us at the piano, started doing, slapping around, hitting it, doing all that stuff. And before you know it, a guy comes out as an Englishman with his son
Right.
and his wife. And he comes with an English accent, and he had tails on with short pants. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
He had just a bare knees, you know. And he says, "Hello there, Mr. Healy. How glad to see you." And of course, you know. And Healy says, "Who are you?" He says, "Oh, my name is Mr. Bagtweed. And I came here from London to see you. In fact, I flew in." You know, Healy says, "With those short pants, you didn't skip in, did you?" And the lines were funny, and there was a big, we were on for 2 weeks. And it was a big hit. And when he died, they pulled a contract out of his pocket. This is true. A contract with Ted Healy, the three of us, and Alice Faye as his vocalist on a radio show for Gillette razor blades. I couldn't take it, he was dead.
Wow.
three of us all set. That would have been competition to the Stooges in those days, with the three of us on radio. You know what I mean? At the time. Yep.
So what did you do then,
Huh?
after he died?
Three of us went out on the road, played vaudeville theaters. Played Nashville, Memphis.
Didn't you go to Europe at one point?
Oh yeah. We went to Europe when the act was going. This is before Ted died. We were when he had Moe Curry and Larry. So we went to England, stayed a year and a half. On the bill there with all the big stars, and they treated us wonderfully. We were over there for a year and a half. I had more fun than I ever had in years. It was so great. But we only used that name as Garner and Hakins, the Gentlemaniacs. I was on the bill with all the big stars, and I'll never forget one instant. We were playing the Palladium in London with my partners. We were on the bill with a big English band called Harry Roy and the Syncopators, or whatever it is, a very good English band. And I became very friendly with him, and he was about my size, a little guy. So he says, I want to take you to this private club in England, in London. He says, and you come up to my dressing room at the Mayfair Hotel. We had his band there, you know. So in his suite up there, he says, put these on. He loaned me a set of his tails. In those days, when you get to those high-class English clubs, you had to wear tails. And not a tuxedo, because anybody who wore a tuxedo looked like a waiter in those days. But the tails, you could tell the difference. So I put on his tails, went in, and who do you think was there? The Prince of Wales. People like that, high class. That was something.
So after Ted died, you guys went on the road by yourselves?
By ourselves, yeah.
How long
That's
did-
when we worked London and all that stuff, and all the theaters in the United States on the Gentlemaniacs as Garner, because they knew that we were with Ted Healy. That got us the booking, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They knew we were the subsidiary of Ted Healy's. So we went on the road and
So about what year was this? When Ted died?
32
I see.
or 33.
That was like the middle of the Depression, wasn't it?
Yeah. But
Did the Depression affect show business much?
no, it didn't. It brought more people in to forget that troubles and everything, you know, everything. And the reason they packed them in, because in those days, it cost to get in 60 cents, 50 cents. You know what I mean? The prices were different in those days. If you get paid 75 cents to get in, you would get it real close to the stage, right down in the early part. Very good.
Well, let's talk about the hitting and the poking and stuff. Did Ted Healy show you how to do that? Was there a method to it? Or was it just...
Yeah, well, Jack Wolf, who played himself, but he did, like Moe, he did the hitting and the poking.
He just hit you and poked you, right?
That was on the level.
There was no trick to it,
No
no?
trick.
What about the eye poking thing?
Right in the,
He'd hit you high on the eyes?
his aim was great.
Uh-huh.
Like Moe never missed. He did once in a while, and he hit you right in the eyes. Couldn't help it. But, you know, because he'd do it like this, you know. And,
But for the most part, they'd hit you, what, right up above the eyes and it looked like it?
Oh, yeah, we did all that stuff.
Did you know when he was going to do it?
Oh, yeah. We knew it because we rehearsed it with Jack first.
Uh-huh.
And Jack was a damn good straight man. I mean, he was as good as Moe anytime.
Really?
But he was a good musician. Jack was a damn good musician. He played terrific guitar and violin. And Hakins played the accordion, very good. And I was at the piano. We did a lot of funny stuff at the piano.
funny songs and,
Like he said, Jack Wolf had a good voice. He says, tote that barge, lift that bale. I says, I can't, it's heavy. You know, things like that. And we did a lot of fun of this stuff. Then we did our own material. One thing we didn't do, we did the pokes and all that stuff, but we didn't do Shemp, Moe, and Larry's jokes. We did our own jokes. Because Ted gave them to us, you know what I mean? So we did, it was a good act, very good act.
well, everybody had their own personality.
We had our own style of
Oh,
working.
uh-huh,
I didn't work like Shemp, Moe, or Larry.
yeah, and Shemp didn't work like Curly.
Huh?
Shemp didn't try to,
Shemp was himself. I was myself. And like Curly would go, woo, 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 right? I didn't do that one. I had my own stuff going. I went, hoo, 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 all that stuff. All that stuff, I did it all. And after the effects of being hit, you make the gestures.
I say, you action and then you react.
Oh, yeah. Like a joke was, the wolf said, what time is it? I said, 1 o'clock. He went, bung. I said, I'm later than 12, you know. Things like that.
Right.
We had our own stuff.
How long was the act when you'd go out and perform? I mean, how much time was it?
15 to 20 minutes.
15 to 20 minutes? How many times a day?
Well, we worked, it was called the Palace, New York. Was 2 a day, the matinee and the night show. At evening, 8:30, we played that. And we played Capitol, the Paramount, they were called the presentation houses. 4 a day, 4 shows a day. Saturday and Sunday, 5 on Saturday and Sunday. We worked there, did very well. And worked, oh my, I worked every theater that was up in those days. Every theater. And to me, that was the show business I loved anyway. I loved that show business because you meet new people all the time. Every week is different acts. You remember them.
Did you find much discrimination against show people?
Not too much.
Not too much? In other words, you could stay at whatever hotel you wanted or...
Oh, you mean, what the blacks couldn't.
Yeah,
I was against that. I thought they should have been in the hotel.
right. But against you or anything, where they'd say, oh, you're in show business, we don't want you here? No?
We never got that.
I see. Because I'd heard of specifically show business hotels.
Oh, yeah. Like in Vegas, a black person couldn't live in, if they work in the, whatever the hotel is, they couldn't stay in that hotel. They had a hotel for the blacks, which I was against.
So, you were on the road. Now, how long did you do that on the road after Ted Healy died? And you went off and...
We worked it for several years until Jack got sick,
Uh-huh.
and he had to quit. His doctor said he
What was wrong with him?
later passed away of cancer.
Oh, really? So now you were lost one of the characters out of your 3-person show.
Yeah, we made pretty good money.
How much money were you making then?
Well, when we went to England, we got, in those days, 1,200.
You were making 1,200, or the act was making 1,200?
The act.
Uh-huh.
You know, the buck went a long ways those days. you know.
Right.
We had a great straight man named Jack Egan, and Wolf's wife, Rosemary, was in the act. Looked just like Joan Crawford, exactly. And we did some funny things with her, like the Marx Brothers were pretty famous in those days. And we used to start, go out, do the act, everything, and then we went off to take a bow, several bows, and as we went off the last time, we made a big change off you know, in the wings. So I dressed like Harpo, and Jack Wolf that looked just like Groucho, and Hakins was Chico. And we came out in that disguise, and the applause went up again. We stopped the show cold. So we did a thing called the karaoke in those days. And we did a thing where she came out like a Cuban girl with a slit down dress, you know, very sexy, and we were doing a dance out there, and she's got that gorgeous shawl, and we're doing the stuff and everything. Before you know it, we're dancing out there, and all of a sudden I got a big towel behind her fanny, you know, doing it. And only I had two bulbs on the end, on each end. As I do it, I'm pressing, and powder shoots out of her ass. Get on fire! Oh, it was just screamed at it. Did that?
So, at what point did you get into films? You did some films too, didn't you?
Did a few of them for Walden's. We did I don't know how many, but quite a few. Then we did a picture at the Republic called Hit Parade with William Demarest and Francis Langford, Eddie Duchin and his band, Duke Ellington and his band. It was a good picture. We did pretty good at it.
Does any of that still survive?
The Hit Parade is still around.
They still have it on film or something
Yeah,
somewhere?
I saw it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Huh?
That's interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Was it like a variety film with different acts in it, or was
No,
there
it
a
was
story?
It was a story with acts in it. They had a lot of big performers in it, and I forgot his name. Who was a star of it? Phil somebody, very handsome singer, and he originally was a Brooklyn policeman. He was so handsome. He sang pretty good too, damn good. And before you know it, he's a star with Francis Langford in that picture, and a lot of good William Demarest and oh, a lot of the guys. I can't remember the names. Plenty of them.
So, about what year? Now, you went into the army or something, didn't you?
went
Didn't
in
you
the
go to World
army.
War II?
I went in the army in 1942, and went over to North Africa. And Patton was my general. He was a good one too, General Patton. And we went over there. Before you know it, while I was in the quartermaster, they picked a lot of us out to do a show for several weeks for the boys, you know. So we worked Casablanca, we worked Oran, we worked Algiers, and the one in Oran, or was it Algiers, we did a show with Eisenhower in the box, Patton in the box, General Alexander from the English Army in there. A lot of the big brass was up there with Eisenhower. So I did a hillbilly act. I did it come out with the guitar and several little boys with the guitars. We sang hillbillies, and I came out and I said, "Howdy, everybody. Howdy. Howdy, Sam. Howdy, Levi. Howdy, Sammy." And up in the box I said, "Howdy, Ike." I broke up the whole, saying
Right,
General,
right.
"Howdy, Ike."
Right.
And I did it. They screened. He came backstage after that show. Thanked all of us of a good job we were doing. General Eisenhower. So help me God.
So did you do a lot of different shows, or were you still working in the quartermaster?
I was building the quartermaster.
I see.
Well, this
But
was
you got
the-
wounded at one point,
Huh?
didn't you? You got wounded at one point, didn't you?
Oh, I got hurt.
Yeah.
I got hurt in when I was shifted to India. We were on a boat going to Bombay, and it was a dark night. This is later on, after we in Bombay, we were in Karachi or something, making a trip on a ship to go to another port, like in India somewhere maybe. Calcutta or whatever it was, or Bombay. So it was dark on the ship at night, real dark. All the lights were out, and a couple of Jap Zeros got through, and they got the sirens and everything, and I'm on the top deck. And I had to leave my top deck to go down to the place where the people are, the guys I'm with are stationed. So I couldn't see. I fell down 2 stairs, busted my legs.
Oh,
That's an action, wouldn't it?
yeah, that's action. So, did you then get back sent stateside?
Huh?
Did you get sent back to the States then after?
No.
No?
They,
Put you in a hospital?
I was in the hospital for quite a while, and then finally they sent me back.
Mm-hmm. So did you then get back into show business right away?
I see, when I got back, I went back as an invalid, hurt, you know, and we wound up in Florida. This is a true story. But I went back, landed in Florida. My dad did this. The thing called Ripley's, believe it or not. Well, I played all the states in the Union, except one. And when I was sent back, I was sent to Florida, and that was the state I missed. And that made all the 48 states, and that was in Ripley's column. About me playing all the 48 states.
Uh-huh.
But being sent back from the Army to Florida is the one I didn't play, but I played it. And I was there, I didn't play it, I was there though. And finally, that was that.
So how did you get back into show business then after the war?
Oh, when I was sent to Oklahoma, I forgot the name of the hospital, outside of 50 miles out of Oklahoma City. I was in a hospital there, so they gave me a convalescent leave for 1 month while I was still in the Army, in the hospital. So I went back to Washington, D.C., my home, see my relatives and my mother and father and everybody. So I knew a guy in New York who was a nephew of the Schuberts. His name was John Schubert. He was a nice man, and he was in the service as a major. And I met him somewhere. I became very friendly with him. Before you know it, when I went up to New York, I visited him. He said, "How you feeling?" I said, "Well, still my legs are that." He says, "In case you don't get out of the Army, I got a place for you in New York here in show business as a performer, but you're still in the Army." But I got a discharge. I didn't go. He had that offered me. Pretty nice of him, wasn't it?
Yeah.
To live in the Piccadilly Hotel. All the servicemen who did shows and all lived in that hotel. And I had a place all picked out.
So what did you do then? You got back into show business.
Yeah. I went to New York and looked up a guy named Mr. Winslow or something. He was the head of the USO. Nice, very nice man. And I met him, and I told him my whole idea. I was show business, who I was with and everything, and he was very interested. So he says, get on the car, go take it out to a fort. It's a fort outside of New York. It was a place where a lot of the army was there.
Not Fort Lee.
Huh?
Fort Lee, that's in New Jersey.
I forgot the name of the
Okay.
place. And anyway, I went there. There was a lot of the soldiers in this place were working, a lot of acts or auditioning. So I went and did my stuff, fell down, got up, this, and that. There was a guy there who was a master sergeant in the Army, but he still was working for Olson and Johnson in Hellzapoppin at the Winter Garden Theater. And he was a stage manager, and also until he got relieved from the Army, and he stayed with Olson and Johnson. So I went down there, and he says, report to this rehearsal hall tomorrow. I want to talk to you. So I says, fine. So I went down there and he says, I'm going to put you, we're doing a show called Hellzapoppin to go overseas. I want you to play Johnson. And I did. I played the part of Johnson with all that falls and all that stuff that I did. And I worked it. I went overseas for about a year.
To England?
Huh?
To England?
England, no, not England, France, Germany, Italy, all through. 1 year, Hellzapoppin. A bunch of fun, really.
Was it, how did the people in like France take to it? How did the people in France take to an English speaking?
Army, we played the Army.
Oh, you played the Army base.
Army
I see.
installations. Strictly Army.
I see.
Between Germany, France, and Italy, loaded with soldiers.
So then, didn't at one point you then work with the Three Stooges after a couple of the guys left, or
I worked with
Curly died, or?
Curly Joe, and if it wasn't for me, Curly Joe would have never been to the Stooges. They wanted me.
Oh, really?
I'm working up in Reno with Spike Jones.
That's right. You worked with Spike Jones. We have to talk about that.
I had quite a few years with him. I worked up there, and while I'm working at the hotel with Spike, I get a call from Larry. He says, as you know, that Carly's passed away, and we had some offers to go out on the road, not to make pictures, but to go on the road with the act. He says, why don't you come down, when are you finished? I says, we're closing so-and-so. He says, when you come down, we'll wait until you come down, because there's no replacement that they knew about. There's no such thing as Curly Joe DeRita. So I went down there, and I was with Larry. I became very buddy with Larry, and Moe was nice and everything. So I went out to Moe to see Moe, and Moe says, yeah, you're just what we wanted, because you know all the bits that Ted Healy did. You know all of them. I says, I did. He says, all right, when you come up, take that script and learn it, of all of the funny jokes I did. And I learned them, and I started getting headaches from when I worked with Wolf and Hakins and all that stuff, and Ted Healy. So I said, I'm afraid to go back with him, because if I keep getting hit constantly, who the hell knows? Shemp died in 1954 or 53, and Curly died. That scared me. So
Curly had a stroke, right? Curly had a stroke.
Several of them.
Several of them.
He died at the age of 42.
Wow.
So Shemp died at the age of 53.
What did he die of?
Same thing.
Oh, it's almost like a boxer's.
So that's right. So did Larry.
Really?
Curly Joe died of stroke and also emphysema. I mean, and Anheuser, what is it? Anheuser.
Alzheimer's.
Yeah, Alzheimer's.
Curly had Alzheimer's?
Strokes.
Oh, strokes.
Curly Joe died of Alzheimer's.
Really?
And that scared me, so I backed out.
I see.
I could have been in there. They wanted me so badly.
I see.
Because they knew I was like Shemp.
Mm-hmm. You even looked like Shemp a little bit sometimes, didn't you? You even looked like him a little bit.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah?
Well, I mean,
Who's your face?
I had the hair down
Yeah?
like this and everything.
So,
I was doing a little Shemp.
so you backed out of that, and they went and got Joe DeRita or one of those other gentlemen.
They got Joe DeRita. That was
Mhm.
it. I became very friendly with Joe DeRita.
Uh-huh.
So finally, when Joe called me one day, he says, "Mousey, let you and I go out to see Moe." And I saw Moe, and he looked. I never saw a guy look so bad. He was so sick, so bad. They had an 8-city tour on these big places on what they call fairgrounds.
You know, I saw them at the fair once when I was a kid
Yeah.
in Milwaukee at the
Right.
state. I think it was the state fair.
That's what it was. This was 8 weeks of state fairs with Moe, Curly Joe, and myself. But Moe wanted to go with it, and the doctor refused to let him go. He was so sick.
What was he sick from?
He looked so bad. I never saw a guy look so bad in my life. He looked like, I shouldn't say this, but he looked like death taking a holiday.
Hmm.
He looked so bad. So he couldn't go. So we had to get a guy by the name of, who was a very personal friend of mine, named Frank Mitchell. He did an act called Mitchell and Durant. Big time act. And so we got Frank Mitchell, Joe DeRita, and myself, and we took the job. We went on the road for 8 weeks. Very good. And we packed them in because the word Stooge did it. They didn't care who you were, as long as you were one of the Stooges.
Right.
And went up there,
And all that was running on television.
huh?
All that was running on television at the time too,
Oh yeah.
because in the afternoons. And
Oh my God. And we went in Boston and broke it up. I never saw such a crowd in my life. That's how
a
powerful.
lot of kids.
Kids and all that. And there was such a draw, like, they're all gone now. It's a shame how big they are, and they can't see what's going on.
How it's gotten even bigger.
That was it.
I see. All right. Well, we're at about an hour here, so why don't we take a little break? All right.
Right.
And then we'll
I hope the stuff I did is all right.
oh.
Oh, I forgot about that.